Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Kyle. And I think we're on. So welcome everybody. This is the most exciting panel of all, right? So you definitely are in the right place, right time, because we're going to talk all about Bitcoin finance and decentralized finance. So yeah, what the halving means for Bitcoin DeFi. I mean, we have here Dylan from Bitflow, the stable swap on Stacks slash Dex aggregator slash Runes Dex coming up, which is also very relevant with the halving. Then Hadan Esprit from Alex, right? The I guess Bitcoin finance layer and juggernaut in the space. And Jacob Schillinger from Hermetica, structured products for BTC on stacks and more. I think announcements coming soon on what to build on top of that. Yeah, and I'm Tycho Onash, your host, or I guess we'll sort of do maybe a bit of a freestyle here between us. But yeah, I'm the founder of Zest Protocol, lending protocol built for Bitcoin, also a contributor at Stacking DAO, which is the LST liquid staking on Stacks, and also co-host of the Stacks DeFi show together with Hadan as well, where every Tuesday 10 a.m. Eastern time we talk about Stacks DeFi and Bitcoin DeFi more broadly. But yeah, so the halving has just happened, right? Bitcoin fees or Bitcoin block reward has been cut in half. So miners need more transaction fees, right, to secure the network, and those transaction fees are coming in big ways, right? I mean, they were provided in big ways at the moment of the halving, by people who build applications and people who use applications, right? So it's really great to be here and chat about that. But maybe just like before diving into anything, we just want to maybe hear everyone's take. Like, what does the halving mean for Bitcoin DeFi, right? Maybe Jacob, you wanna take that first?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having us. I think for me, the most important thing about the halving is to see that the protocol, the Bitcoin protocol, is functioning as intended, in that the halving really enforces the most important feature of the protocol, the 21 million cap. By halving every 4 years, we asymptotically approach the 21 million Bitcoin cap in 2140. And so seeing that this protocol, the couple lines of C++ code in Bitcoin Core that define and execute the Bitcoin subsidy halving, execute flawlessly for the fourth time, can give all of us building and using Bitcoin a lot more confidence in the protocol. And really the whole world is watching us, right? And so seeing that everything functions exactly like it needs to function, and the most important feature is enforced, can give everybody watching Bitcoin the confidence that this is the foundational layer that we need to build Bitcoin DeFi on top of.
No, very good, very good points there. Very good points there. Hadan, Dylan, anything that comes to mind in your thoughts as you're thinking about this panel, right? What does the halving mean for Bitcoin DeFi? Maybe Hadan, you wanna take it next?
Sure. Yeah, so I think particularly with this halving, we've seen, I think, the progression of the narrative of Bitcoin transforming from a money layer increasingly to a data layer. Arguably, we saw this begin in January of 2023 with the Ordinals protocol, to be followed in March with Domo's release of the BRC20 protocol and the mass popularity that brought along. And with this halving cycle, it coincided with the release of Runes protocol by Casey, and all the excitement that occurred there, where we have another iteration of Bitcoin as an information layer, where people are trading Bitcoin at very high premiums, very high fees, for the data that is inscribed upon it, rather than necessarily just for the satoshis as a monetary unit. And I think for Bitcoin DeFi, this really signifies that evolution that we're seeing, where Bitcoin becomes the base layer not just for the transfer of money and value, but for information as well. And it sets really the basis on which the most valuable data in the world, really financial transactions, the settlement of financial transactions, increasingly the tokenization of real world assets will occur on Bitcoin. And as those assets then look to transact trustlessly, transact securely and efficiently, they will come to Bitcoin DeFi as well. So I think it's a very smooth and a very exciting progression of that narrative. And there couldn't be a better time to be building, I think, Bitcoin DeFi than at the present moment.
Very, very interesting. So yeah, what the halving means for Bitcoin DeFi, I guess we have security and being a secure base layer. The other one, what Hadar mentioned, is being that data layer and evolving into a data layer. Dylan, anything to add there, perhaps on the Rune side of things, or any other thoughts you might have?
Yeah, sure. I think I mean, this for me personally is the most excited I've been for a Bitcoin halving. I think we have a first here where, usually if you look at the past 3 cycles, it sort of signifies like the beginning of the early stage of a bull run. But I think we had Bitcoin recently hit an all-time high before the halving for the first time ever. So definitely will be interesting to watch how that plays out. Like it or not, people get excited for number go up and the casino of it all. And it seems like with runes, the crypto casino has returned to Bitcoin in a major way. The block rewards get cut in half, but miners are making 3 times as much. So I'm sure they're very happy right now. I think the Epic sat sold, I saw today, for 33 BTC. So congrats to the miners there. But yeah, I think hopefully with all this excitement, right, people and when they're cashing out of this crypto casino, this degen activity, right, they're cashing out in Bitcoin, which is very different, from other DeFi activity where you're cashing out in ETH or SOL, right? So I think that hopefully people stick around for the sound money properties of Bitcoin as well. And of course, with high fees, I think this also drives the need for L2s, right? And I think the conversation is no longer if we need layer 2s, but which layer 2s, and the ones that have spent the previous bear market, I think, building out this infrastructure, dev tooling, attracting liquidity, those are the ones that are going to win.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point, and maybe we need to jump into a little bit here as well, right? I think this halving is very different from ones we've seen before. I mean, because there are many more use cases of Bitcoin 01 than have been there before. And those use cases want that expressiveness, right? Like they want to, like runes or BRC20s or ordinals, right? Like to really leverage the power of them. They need to move somewhere where they can become more programmable, right? So I guess that's where a lot of this drive towards Bitcoin L2s comes from. And then once you have things that are more programmable, then you have more ways to express rules and contracts, and then you have Bitcoin DeFi, right? So that's a really, really exciting kind of cadence to sort of witness there. And yeah, I mean, Jacob, you've been running around in this space for quite a while. You're building on stacks, right? I guess like all of us, are building on stacks and on Bitcoin 01 kind of at the same time. How do you sort of view the trade-offs of some DeFi happens on Bitcoin 01, but most of it kind of happens on L2s, right? How do you view those trade-offs when building Hermetica, or are there those trade-offs maybe even to begin with?
Yeah, I think there's a very significant trade-off between the main chain and L2s, be it stacks or other ones that are coming online now. I see it as the L2 is really the settlement layer for the financial system, and there's going to be significant transactions that need to happen on L1. They're going to have significant amount of value, and only those will make sense to happen on Bitcoin L1. Also, obviously, and that's the most important part for me as a builder, the user experience of L1 is subpar if you compare it even to the traditional financial system. And as a builder, you always need to build something that is 10x better, at least what people say, right, in order to displace a incumbent. And so we're simply not able to build a UI UX on L1 that is able to be 10x better as the incumbent that we're facing. And so that's where L2s come in. And the trade-off is essentially we give up some of the security. There's definitely a less strong security assumption on an L2, but we gain, and now this is becoming more relevant for stacks with Nakamoto, we're gaining a much better UI UX. So that's what I'm really excited about. We're gaining faster transactions, we're gaining cheaper transaction, but most importantly, also the expressibility of smart contracts, which allows us to express all the applications that we want to build that we see maybe in other ecosystems on the mother chain.
Mm-hmm. No, very clearly. So, I mean, both Hadan and Dylan, you guys have worked both on Alex and Bitflow, quite extensively with L1, and now with the Runes launch, I saw some very interesting announcements, coming from your end. Maybe Hadan, to pass the question first to you, like, how do you see this interaction between L1 and L2 develop, as Bitcoin DeFi further matures?
Absolutely. I would say, to build on what Jacob said, that having a friendly user interface and having really a seamless connection between Bitcoin layers is really fundamental for mass adoption. And when Alex has the point of view or describing ourselves as building a DeFi layer on Bitcoin, the idea is that we enable users to bring L1 assets. We began with BRC20s that could be bridged to the Stacks L2 on Alex through the Xlink bridge. Just recently, we've put into place the Runes bridge, both the peg out and the peg in. And so Runes can be bridged to the Alex L2, where they can be put into AMM dexes. They can be swapped for other SIP10 tokens or for tokens that are bridged to other layers. And the importance there is really because when users come and they mint a rune and they want to trade it, they'll find that if you do it directly on the L1 through a partially signed Bitcoin transaction, it's relatively technically involved. And there has to be a counterparty that takes the trade. Whereas with an AMM DEX, at any time of day, there's an instantly quotable price. And this isn't a functionality that you can do directly on the L1. It requires scalability. And so that's why we see ourselves in bridging those assets over, and then the process really being liquidity aggregators, where now, say, projects such as major meme coins on stacks that have already created BRC20 tokens, now if they want to create Runes tokens as well, instead of that liquidity being fragmented through Alex and the Xlink bridge, they can go from the BRC20 to Runes. And I think that that seamless operation of one-click bridging between these different L1 protocols, between L1 and L2, really make this very exciting and allows us to create a whole that is greater than the sum of the parts. And so in creating that ease of use and building out that ecosystem is what our focus will be on in the coming weeks and months.
Got it. That's I think that's exactly what like very nice summary of I think what we all have in mind here on the panel. So that's really great. And yeah, I guess Dylan, I mean you guys have built very successful stable swap on stacks, are now moving also into the runes space. Do you see that as yeah, is that a complementary thing as it were to each other, or and how do you sort of see that further develop, I suppose, as we maybe head towards the next halving?
Yeah, sure. I think the big pie in the sky is to make it easy for liquidity in the Bitcoin ecosystem to flow, right? That's sort of where the name comes from. But as it relates to layer 1 and layer 2, like one of the many reasons why we built the AMM functionality on stacks is the ability to have read access to Bitcoin state, right? And so for us, providing a better user experience, first of all, we're happy to have great wallets like Lether and Xverse that make our job a lot easier. But we can also provide you know, these experiences where you're performing a Bitcoin swap, you know, for a Bitcoin for a stable coin. It's a Bitcoin transaction, you know, through transaction bundling, through atomic swaps, and through the AMM. Or if you're adding Bitcoin liquidity to a stable swap pool with different flavors of Bitcoin, like SBTC, XBTC, ABTC, right? You know, you're sending a Bitcoin transaction. And if you're claiming your rewards, you can claim your rewards in Bitcoin, right? So, you know, this is definitely some of the stuff that we're excited about, building deep liquidity around different flavors of stablecoins, different flavors of Bitcoin. And yeah, you know, I think Jacob mentioned one thing about how you can't have, you know, a 10x improvement experience on layer one, right? And I think we didn't really have, I'll push back on that a little bit, just because we didn't really have tokens defined on Bitcoin a year ago, right? Or a little bit over a year ago. People thought all this stuff was impossible. So I think that in itself, you know, Liquidium is a great example that, you know, it's a 10x improvement because we didn't have anything like this before. But I totally agree that the next 10x improvement is using the stuff that, you know, all four of us are building.
No, that's very, very exciting. So as we kind of look at, you know, this halving, I think also what everyone is really dying to know, or really interested in knowing, is sort of where are we and where are all of the applications that we're working on by the time of the next halving, right? So maybe we should do a bit of prediction time in some way. Right. I mean, last halving was sort of you know, in the depths of COVID. Now we are here. So much more activity, so many exciting things happening. So yeah, not sure who wants to volunteer for that one first, where Hermetica, Alex, Bitflow are at the next halving. I see Jacob looking very eagerly for this one.
I can take it. I mean, it's really challenging to look into 4 years into the future, because it's like there's so much happening in just 4 weeks, that everything is changing so rapidly and improving, and it's really exciting. But I'll give it a shot. We are about to release our Bitcoin-backed interest-bearing stablecoin, USDH. Very excited about it. And if I look into the future in 4 years, I see USDH as a major component of the Bitcoin DeFi ecosystem. It's going to be half of a lot of transactions, be it in trading or in lending. And most importantly, I see USDH as a stablecoin that is completely outside of the banking system, and therefore extremely difficult to control and censor. And that is very deeply tied to the mission of Hermetica and dear to my heart. And I think it will be increasingly important. On top of that, we'll give the world access to a Bitcoin-backed interest-bearing stablecoin, so like an interest instrument that will allow people to earn a very significant interest that is 100% crypto native, that will allow them to protect themselves from the inflation that I think we'll see in the coming years to become very rampant and very significant. So that is what we're excited about in looking into the future.
Awesome. Maybe real quick, Dylan, in 40 seconds before passing it to Hadan.
Yeah. I think Bitcoin is our best chance to have separation of money and state. I think the use case only grows stronger before the next halving. And I think it's extremely important that we continue to build out these protocols. You start with the best form of money, you build these protocols around it. Like Bitflow, Hermetica, Zest, Alex, right? So that you can swap with Bitcoin, you can earn with Bitcoin, you can borrow against Bitcoin, you can borrow Bitcoin itself. Building all these primitives around it, I think, is going to allow us to not only flip, Ethereum DeFi, but I think Bitcoin DeFi is going to be the bedrock of the new financial system.
Awesome. And Hadan, any final words before we reconvene in 4 years at the next halving and look at Alex's state?
Sure. I think really the key to Bitcoin DeFi is use case, and use case. And for example, with runes, from being purely meme coins, as some might call them, already we're in talks with some projects about IDOs on Alex using runes that will allow them to become governance tokens and utility tokens. Looking ahead this year, we're doing work with yield-bearing stable coins, yield-bearing Bitcoin assets. I think these are really important unlocks, as have been mentioned, to lead to the growth and unlocking that Bitcoin liquidity. And I think the long-term use case for the infrastructure that we're building today is, as we see 360 trillion in global assets become tokenized, go on chain. And when they want to transact, they will come to the most secure layer, the most efficient layer, and that will be Bitcoin DeFi. And so that's really the future that we're building for, not to compete with Ethereum or Solana liquidity. We're here to compete with the traditional finance itself. And that's what we're all building towards.
There we go. There we go. So as traditional finance kicked off this bull, next bull, next halving, it will all look very different, and maybe we are in that position with many others that are building on Bitcoin. So yeah, with that was our Bitcoin DeFi chat. Make sure to follow Bitflow, Hermetica, Alex, and Zest Protocol, of course, as we then reconvene in 4 years and look what we have achieved for Bitcoin finance. And yeah, I'm handing it over back to Kyle to guide us to the next part of this exciting event.